Ottawa has done a lot to try and make services and programs more accessible to seniors. And it's, as Mark was saying, it's a whole building of community, the sense of inclusion, an absence of ageism, which is really important as a senior. One encounters ageism in one's daily round, and the sensitivity and awareness that comes from having this kind of a plan helps to educate the broader public about the presence of seniors, the increasing presence of seniors with the demographics the way they are, and the needs to build within and around communities the informal supports, as well as the things like the transportation and the more formal services. So yes, I support it all the way.
And what are some examples of some things that the city's doing that other communities might not be doing, or that if we weren't paying attention to this issue, we wouldn't be doing?
Well, I think, you know, it really falls into two baskets. One is just installing within kind of all of our processes at the city, no matter what department it is that's, you know, doing work on whatever. Are they looking at, you know, whatever's before them through kind of an age-friendly lens? So it could be things like building and construction. You know, when they're designing and building roadways and sidewalks, that kind of thing, are they building them in a way that's going to be accessible for folks so that we don't have to go back later and then, you know, tear them up and redo them? When we're putting in new crosswalks in our ever-growing, you know, subdivisions, are we programming the timing lights so that they're, you know, the most possible time to allow folks to cross, things like that. So there's that set of activities. Those are the ones that just kind of, it's the daily work of every department, and now they have to kind of include that. And then there's the kind of the concrete, let's go out right now and do something. And those are the things like, you know, we're promoting things like through Ottawa Public Health, healthy eating, active living, particularly for seniors. We want people to go out and walk. Well, we need more benches on the street if we're going to be promoting people going out and walking, and, you know, those kinds of things. So we've broken down, right now we've got 74 concurrent actions going on under these 8 areas, and they run the entire gamut.
Are we ready, though, for the demographic change that's coming? Because we have a significant population of seniors today, but that pales in comparison to what it's going to be like in 10 years and in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at, by the year 2030, there'll be more adults over the age of 65 than there will be kids under 15 for the first time in Ottawa's history. And, you know, I'd say we're there in some ways. You know, we're not there yet in others, but as you said, we know where the demographics are going. So, I mean, we're preparing along those lines. One of the areas where I see we're probably going to actually physically see one of the biggest changes is in our rural communities. You know, we've been, between the city and the province, we've been messaging seniors for years about the value of aging at home, aging in place, and providing supports for those kinds of things. Well, guess what? They're doing it. So for the first time, we're going to see an unprecedented growth of seniors in the rurals, over 400% increase. And those neighborhoods, those areas traditionally don't have things like bricks and mortar senior support centers. Yeah. So we have to plan how are we going to address that need out there. We have a little time, but that's why we're working now.
All right, let's talk about things from a healthcare perspective, Chantal, because that's a big part of it, obviously, is making sure that our healthcare system is aligned to those changing demographics and to the needs of seniors. What are we doing in that space?
Yeah, so you're right. The healthcare services are one part, but I would just want to say that all of the other dimensions are so important because we do want to keep people healthy before they end up needing the healthcare system. And so we absolutely value some of the initiatives that are going on to keep people well. From a healthcare perspective, we've also been looking at a senior-friendly approach within the healthcare providers. So for example, last year, all of the hospitals in the Champlain region, so our big region, there are 20 of them, actually evaluated themselves against some criteria to see how senior-friendly they actually were. They identified some excellent practices and they identified some areas for improvement. And it's very similar, from everything from the physical environment equipment. So did they have grab bars? Did they have proper lighting? Did they have non-slip flooring? Did they have, you know, the physical setup of the hospital set up to be safe for seniors? But also looking at, did they have a philosophy in place that really promotes thinking from the perspective of what would a senior need? So everything from making it a statement in the organization's mission statement or its values, or appointing a senior manager to sort of be in charge of looking at things from a senior's perspective and involving seniors in defining what that care looks like. And then we've been putting in place a number of programs to meet that shifting demographic. So services right up front to keep people well, to keep seniors well and aging in their homes and in their communities. Having services in place when they need them that are appropriate, and making sure that we've got services to restore them as quickly as possible if they've had a change in their condition back to their best optimal state, so that they can continue to age in their communities. So it's a wide range of services along the full continuum of care, and where we've been focusing a particular amount of attention is on those things that are complementary to healthcare services. So we know from the literature and from the statistics that some of the prime reasons why people might not be able to age at home or in their communities and end up seeking institutional care in a long-term care home, for example, is often because they can't access help with not personal care so much, but things like grocery shopping or transportation or going to the bank or connecting with their community. And that's why we have been working in partnership with others to make sure that those services are there and that will help keep people at home.
All right, we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about what we're doing to prepare for these changing demographics, and also where we might be coming up short. What else do we need to focus on? We'll be right back on Talk Ottawa.
This program is sponsored in part by Ottawa's only all-news radio station, 1310 News. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All News Radio, 1310 News.
For 15 years, A Taste for Life has been taking people out of the kitchen and into Ottawa's delicious and fantastic restaurants. I'm Steph the Grilling Gourmet, inviting you to come out and dine on April 24th at a participating Taste restaurant. 25% of your total bill will then be donated to Bruce House and the Snowy Owl AIDS Foundation. It's hope made delicious. I know where I'm going to dine on April 24th. Do you?
My name's Heather, and I've been volunteering with Daytime for about 2 years. Absolutely my favorite part of volunteering with Rogers has been the people that I work with, the staff and the crew. It's a wonderful group of people. Everybody seems to have an up and positive attitude, and it's a team effort. Well, I would recommend volunteering at Rogers TV because for me it opened a whole new world of possibilities.
Tripping in Orbit, Ottawa's new sketch comedy show, Sunday at 10:30 on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Talk Ottawa. We're talking about the city as an age-friendly city. What does that mean? What are we doing? What else do we need to be doing? And I want to come back to the point you made, Chantal, a few minutes ago about how it's obviously not just about the hospitals in terms of providing care and keeping people healthy, because the city's got to be configured in a way, and the resources have to be there to make sure people don't end up in hospital as early and as often. That's a big part of it, isn't it?
It absolutely is. So everything from making sure that people don't trip and slip and fall. We know that 90% of hip fractures are a result of a fall in seniors. And so if we could even cut that number by whatever percent would make a huge difference. So that's where, you know, clean sidewalks in the winter, finding people who will help remove snow and people's walkways and stairs, all those things are incredibly important. Also, things like wellness programs, social activities, and also having people who are just keeping an eye on each other and on neighbors, and identifying early when somebody looks like they might be running into trouble or aren't going to their usual activities, haven't been seen in a while. So we can identify early people who are running into difficulties and make sure that they're accessing the services. Because it's surprising still how many people don't have services because they don't know they can have them or haven't reached out until there's a crisis. So having a plan in place too for knowing ahead of time what's available before you actually need it is critical. And there are some excellent programs in this city to help connect people to services. The 211 line is an excellent example of that.
Now, Jane, you were talking during the break about how there is a program now that follows up on why people are going to the hospital if they're going there frequently. What's the reason for that? How can we find a solution? So tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, the Geriatric Emergency Management Program for seniors. I think it was even created in Ottawa. And so when a senior comes to emergency services, they are identified and a workup is done at that time, and then they are followed if they return a second time. And a third time they're trying to figure out, well, why are you back here so frequently in such a short space of time? And they look at who is supporting you in the community. Have you reached out to the supports that are available? It's quite outstanding with all that is available in Ottawa, and it's truly an outstanding city for seniors care and support that people don't know, or they say they don't know because they don't know where to look. And sometimes they're in denial of what they really need. And that's really a big challenge for all of us sitting here, just to make people aware that maybe things aren't quite as good as you think they are, and making them aware that they can be helped successfully.
Right. So tell me more about Senior Wise Services. What is that, and what does it do?
I'm a gerontologist, and so I focus on advocating and consulting and doing some care management for families so that the whole family has peace of mind. And I do that by bringing the best quality of life to the senior person in Ottawa, because the kids or their support team, normally the children, may be out of town, might not exist, or may be just too busy doing what they're doing to look after mom and dad.
So give me an example of that.
Someone who lives in the Netherlands had a mom become ill in Ottawa, and you can't do very much from the Netherlands. So, and though he knew the services in Ottawa well, so he contracted me to look after mom, who regrettably had a very serious illness and within 6 months passed away. But he had the peace of mind of knowing that she was being looked after extremely well here in Ottawa, and that meant going for an OHIP card for her. It was a very challenging case, because she was in denial that she would even get old. And but he was able to go back to work and come over and visit and go back to work in the Netherlands, knowing that his mom was well looked after.
So is it only in the case of illness, though, or is it broader than that in terms, because you were talking about quality of life and things like that?
And it's broader. However, it usually starts with a crisis. Something major happens that everyone's been in denial about, and then they need someone to come in and be the professional to, swim through the muck and get them into a kind of place of normalcy, so that everyone can go back to work or go back to their home, and then the Ottawa senior stays under my care. Usually until they die. I've been in business for 9 years, and now they're just the initial folks are passing away, which is very sad.
You mentioned denial. Carol, how big an issue is in terms of the health and safety of seniors is the seniors themselves acknowledging that they have to do things differently, or that they have to recognize certain warning signs? Because I think there is an element sometimes where they're trying to put that off, or pretend that they're not requiring any extra help.
I think it can be difficult. When seniors have an acute need, often they're very, very realistic and very pragmatic about what they can and can't do. And one of the worst things that can happen is when the middle-aged families make assumptions about what the older person can do without really trying, because seniors do have the right to take risks if they're mentally competent. And so we can't always say, oh, they really shouldn't be living there.
Right.
We need to be insightful enough to be able to evaluate their needs and look at the kinds of supports. And as Chantal said a few minutes ago, some of the supports needed are often quite minimal. Just somebody to help with your grocery shopping might be all that you need, for example. In other cases, of course, they're much more complex. And I recently had a lovely conversation with a woman in Ottawa who's just started receiving support services at the age of 92. And she was facing up to it and saying, you know, she used the example of the serenity prayer, and you have to accept the things you can't change, and you need the wisdom to know what you can change and what you can't change. And I was very compelled by that. And she said, I really have to live in a new way. But that being said, she was also very clear that the services the service providers really needed to validate seniors and to support them emotionally and not be authoritarian in approach. So I think service providers and seniors have to work as a team with this. And when we're looking at all the needs for services particularly, we have to acknowledge the needs of lower income seniors, because affordable housing is very, very difficult, and that is a big cause of people going into nursing homes, to long-term care facilities too early, because they're unable to afford to live in the community.
Right.
So, you know, it's fine to have good services that people with higher incomes can access, but we have to remember everybody and all the different groups.
All right, well, I want to talk more about housing and also what else we can do differently. We're talking about making Ottawa and sustaining Ottawa as an age-friendly city. We'll be right back on Talk Ottawa.
It isn't a party until the Rogers TV Tim Hortons Community Cruiser is on the scene. Hot coffee, tasty treats, and awesome prizes.
Hi everyone, this is Jean from the Cornwall Detachment. I'm at the Musical Ride Open House today, having the kids to try our uniform. I'm on Rogers TV.
Where will the cruiser be next? Maybe at your event. Log on to rogerstv.com and find out how. Meanwhile, keep your eyes on Rogers for more cruiser moments.
Hey everyone, it's Brian Ballmer from HGTV with this spring's must-see home and garden event.
The Ottawa Home and Garden Show, presented by RE/MAX, March 21st to the 24th at the Ernst & Young Center. Buy tickets online and save $3 courtesy of HomeStars. Visit ottawahomeshow.com.
This program is sponsored in part by today's best music. The new 105.3 KISS FM, where every Monday is commercial-free Monday. No commercials, just today's best music all day. Only on the new 105.3 KISS FM.
Welcome back to Talk Ottawa. We're talking about Ottawa having received the designation of being an age-friendly city. What does that mean, and where do we go from here? So let's talk about some of the challenges we still face. I think housing is one of them, as Carol was touching on, because our city, I know that in the context of Ontario, there was evidence that there aren't enough places for people to live that are set up for aging people or people who might need some health care near their home. What are we doing about that as a city?
Well, I mean, affordable housing is a big challenge for Ottawa and for municipalities across the province as a whole. And you know, affordable housing that's suitable for seniors, particularly older adults who have mobility challenges, is even at more of a premium. So, you know, part of our older adult plan is looking at you know, taking some of our dollars that are dedicated towards affordable housing programs and making sure that you know, they get to places where you know, we're either building or retrofitting or you know, providing subsidy dollars for seniors to go into places that work for them. So that's, you know, that's one piece. You know, there are also other things. There's things like tax credit renovation program. You know, the city does have a tax deferral program for seniors to defer their property taxes on a home that they already own to help keep them in their home, keep it more affordable. So everything from, you know, keeping them, you know, putting a little bit of money into modifying their home rather than the big expense of trying to get them out and get them into someplace else. So, but there are other challenges too, and I think, you know, we have to give credit to groups like Council on Aging who are doing their part outside of the envelope of the city government kind of thing to ready the city in so many other ways for this aging demographic. But one of the big challenges, I think, we have to engage the business community across the city as well to address, you know, what are you doing to get your business to a place where you're going to be able to properly address the needs of these folks, your customers, in the coming, you know, 10, 20 years.
What else do you think we need to do, Jane? What are some of the other things that
I'm looking at? You know, with the seniors now, we're going to live a lot longer as a group. I'm a member of this boomer group, and we're going to be older for a long, long time. And as you get older, the risk of dementia is so much greater than when it is when you're just 65. So I'm looking at not just the housing piece, but there isn't going to be room for even a quarter of us in long-term care. So how are we going to solve this problem? And today I don't have any ideas, but I think it's something that we need to look at very seriously, because you can't live at home if you're a person with moderate to end stages dementia by yourself.
Chantal, what do you think? What else do we need to do more of?
So Jen is absolutely right, and that's something that we've been looking at, is to make sure that people who are going into long-term care homes today absolutely need that level of care, and we've done everything possible to maintain them at home as an alternative, and we've put in programs like supportive housing or assisted living services where you can get care 24/7, 7 days a week in your own home, because we know that today we have people in long-term care homes who've gone there because maybe at the time they didn't have other options in the community. And if we're going to have available space for people who are going to need it coming up, we need to make sure that we're not having people going into long-term care homes before they're absolutely ready and before we've exhausted some of these other options. So it may not be a question right now of building more long-term care home beds, but it's making really good use of the ones we have, making sure people are going when it's time and not too soon, and making sure that other services are there. That's how we're going to get ahead on that.
And most seniors don't want to be there.
That's right, on top of it.
Your 24/7 care, is that going to be paid for out of ministry?
Yes, it's actually a program that the Champlain Local Health Integration Network has put in place. We have 542 spaces across our big region. A good chunk of them are in the City of Ottawa. We invested about $11 million a couple of years ago, and we're looking to see if we can add more. And that's an innovation where actually we partner with the city, because some of the services are provided in affordable housing that the city operates, and we can combine our resources to bring the services to the people and combine housing and services together.
So we don't have a lot of time left, but when you talk about engaging business and other people in the community, so it's not just the city doing that, how do we make that happen?
Well, I mean, I think that's going to be the kind of the ongoing role of both Council of Aging, Council on Aging, as well as our new Seniors Roundtable at the city. So that's the group that we've constituted to kind of oversee the deployment of this older adult plan. So between the two of us, we're going to have to work on strategies for business outreach. But you know, myself, I can see plenty of opportunities to, you know, come out and address the many kind of business groups that gather, Chamber of Commerce or Chambers of Commerce, that take place across the city to try and start that education process, and also make business owners aware that, you know, a lot of the resources that exist to serve seniors, they are more than happy to speak with business owners as well about how to ready themselves.
All right, we'll stop there. Thank you very much for being part of this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Talk Ottawa. Good night.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line at 613-759-8622 or email us your comments.
Sevens Hockey, Friday at 7:30.
I'm on Rogers TV. I'm on Rogers TV.
I'm on Rogers TV.
I am the greatest actress.
My name is Alan Acton. Please join me March 18th for Ottawa Experts Financial Advice. Straight talk on your money. My guest, Dale Cahoon from Financial Horizons, discuss protecting your family with insurance.
You're watching Rogers TV Ottawa.
Salve gentili telespettatori e benvenuti a Tele30. Daremo inizio al programma di oggi con la discussione di Elio sul Consiglio Generale degli Italiani all'estero e la CGIE e sui comitati degli italiani residenti all'estero. Seguirà il servizio di Eugenio Bubba sulla giornata del patrimonio culturale, nonché del carnevale che si è tenuto alla scuola Santa Rita il 23 febbraio scorso. In seguito manderemo in onda l'intervista alla delegazione calabrese condotta da Fabiana in occasione della loro visita a Ottawa alla fine di gennaio. Concluderemo il programma con un comunicato della parrocchia di Sant'Antonio e con gli annunci socioculturali. Buon ascolto e via la prima intervista. Salve a tutti. Dunque oggi siamo ancora una volta io ed Elio insieme e parleremo del dopo delle elezioni in Italia brevemente e poi anche dei comites, cioè i comitati degli italiani all'estero. Dunque, mentre in Italia in questo momento non si profila ancora la struttura del prossimo governo, infatti ora siamo senza governo e senza papa nemmeno, il risultato del voto degli italiani all'estero è stato alquanto determinante, mettendo in testa il Partito Democratico sia alla Camera che al Senato. È stato buono anche il risultato del partito MAIE, cioè il Movimento Associativo Italiani all'Estero, che ha eletto 2 deputati e un senatore. Poi il Monti per l'Italia ha eletto 2 deputati e un senatore anche. Il 5 Stelle, che in Italia è stato molto popolare, all'estero ha eletto soltanto un seggio. Il Popolo della Libertà soltanto un seggio alla Camera e l'USEI, cioè Unione Sudamericana Immigrati Italiani, un seggio alla Camera. Noi in America settentrionale e centrale abbiamo eletto 2 donne. Una donna per il Partito Democratico e sarebbe la signora Francesca Lamarca e una donna per il partito Monti per l'Italia, la signora Angela Rosalia, detta Fucsia Nissoli. E per il Senato abbiamo eletto un solo seggio al Partito Democratico Renato Turano, che avemmo il piacere di conoscere personalmente all'inaugurazione del centro storico italo-canadese avvenuta il 29 gennaio scorso. Quindi auguri al signor Renato Turano. Elio, allora scusa, dici un pochino che importanza hanno questi risultati per quanto riguarda il Partito Democratico?
Sì, dunque, ecco un argomento piuttosto pesante, però cercheremo di renderlo leggero. Il significato di questo voto, prima di tutto, rappresenta un passo avanti per il PD, perché senza i voti ottenuti non avrebbe avuto la maggioranza al Senato. E poi alcune riflessioni su cui ci soffermeremo più tardi, sul significato di questo voto degli italiani all'estero. Ma prima di poter far questo dobbiamo risalire al 2001 con l'approvazione della legge 459, conosciuta meglio come legge Tremaglia.
Ah sì.
Questa legge appunto approvò la circoscrizione estero, cioè il diritto degli italiani all'estero di votare. Potevano essere anche italo-canadesi, l'importante è avere la cittadinanza italiana come avrebbe indicato l'AIRE. Quindi dicevo, bisogna tornare un pochino indietro per capire un pochino il processo. Una volta approvata la legge Tremaglia, allora di questi comites già se ne parlava negli anni 60.
Quindi parliamo dei comites prima?
Sì, parliamo prima dei comites, per dire che questi furono, appunto, se ne parlava già dagli anni, mi ricordo con il ministro Oliva, negli anni 60. Poi eventualmente, insomma, dopo che fu dato il voto agli italiani all'estero, fu approvato, cominciarono a formarsi questi comites. Il processo di creazione del comites aveva lo scopo di creare un ponte di comunicazione fra la comunità e
degli italiani all'estero e la
degli
madrepatria.
italiani all'estero con l'ambasciata e con i consolati. Quindi un ponte di riferimento. In altre parole, arrivava un nuovo console, allora ci sarebbe stato un tipo di comunicazione con il presente, cioè il comites del posto, per avere un'idea della situazione. Ora, dovevano essere eletti, cioè prima di tutto avevano diritto a essere creati, dove vi fossero almeno 3.000 italiani. Ottawa era uno di questi, con 3.000 persone con cittadinanza italiana.
È canadese, doppia cittadinanza.
Sì, l'importante è avere quella italiana.
Sì.
Il problema è questo, che fu creato un comitato selettivo per scegliere gli eventuali candidati. Però quello che accadde di non diciamo, previsto è che avrebbero dovuto votare solo gli italiani, cioè queste persone, questo comitato che scelse i vari candidati. Poi decise una data in cui si sarebbe votato per questi eventuali membri, 12 dovevano essere. Quindi un presidente, vicepresidente, segretario, tesoriere, eccetera. Il problema è che, per quello che riguarda Ottawa, in effetti le cose non furono regolari perché, appunto, piuttosto che votare solo gli italiani, votarono anche persone che non avevano cittadinanza italiana. Quindi, da questo punto di vista, il Comites attuale non dovrebbe avere validità per questo motivo. Perché non tutti quelli che votarono, quelli che poi eventualmente furono eletti, Non tutti
tu
quelli
parli della
erano
prima elezione oppure della
la prima elezione.
La prima
quando-
elezione. Okay.
Comunque, questo era lo scopo. Lo scopo è quello di comunicare con i consolati e con l'ambasciata, se appunto era presente, come nel caso di Ottawa. Il problema, e quindi quello che era lo scopo dei Comites è quello di promuovere, come al solito, la cultura italiana, la lingua italiana, promuovere i beni culturali dell'Italia, comunicare con le regioni, insomma vari scambi a vari livelli, fra i quali quello culturale e quindi anche in collaborazione con l'ENIT in alcuni casi, eccetera. Per quello che mi riguarda, per quello che io sappia, da quello che so, l'unico evento che ricordo, io pure appartenevo al Comites, ma me ne...
Sì, la prima volta,
sì.
insomma, quando vi furono le prime elezioni, mi ricordo.
Sì, sì, poi le altre furono fatte proprio così improvvisate, così. Fu una conferenza scientifica e ci volle molto tempo per ottenere questa autorizzazione dall'ambasciata, dal consolato, insomma, principalmente, l'ufficio consolare. E finalmente riuscimmo a fare questa cosa, cioè di poter realizzare qualche progetto, come è stata appunto questa conferenza scientifica alla quale partecipò Emilio Panarello come fisico, Luigi Logrippo come specialista delle comunicazioni, per quello che riguarda informatica
sì.
cellulari, eccetera. E io parlai di microbiologia dopo 30 anni di laboratorio, quindi qualcosa ne sapevo, antibiotici, eccetera. Dopodiché non credo che ci sia stata altra manifestazione di prestigio, di importanza. Sì, hanno partecipato per esempio al Carnevale dei Bambini ultimamente, ma non credo che sia qualcosa che era previsto
sì, comunque andiamo avanti.
Sì, andiamo avanti.
Sempre in riferimento alle elezioni.
Attualmente, per esempio, non c'è un presidente, però esiste un ufficio